The following is a presentation from PokerStars.net. Last night on the big game, Daniel Negreanu found his mark.
It's me and you again, looks like.
Nah, it seems like it's always me and you, man.
Yes!
And then settled in against the rest of the table.
I had you.
That's not gonna look good on TV.
Doyle's frustrations continued as he waited for his rush.
Nice little game y'all got here.
While the loose cannon, Ernest Wiggins, finished the night on an upswing.
I got the queen, ace queen.
Tonight, see if E-Dub's journey continues against the best in the world on the big game.
Hey.
This is the PokerStars.net Big Game.
Welcome to Las Vegas, home of the big game. Alongside Joe Stapleton, I'm Chris Rose, and tonight some of the greatest players in the world continue play in our state-of-the-art poker room for cold, hard cash. Daniel Negreanu, he's had a solid 2 nights so far, up over 19,000.
Doyle Brunson, the godfather of poker, more resembling Sonny at the toll booth. He's down 152 large.
The Unabomber, Phil Laak, he's actually the leader so far, up over $85,000.
Tony G, the Aussie stack started heading down under last night, but he's still up 47K.
And our loose cannon is 35-year-old Ernest Wiggins from Washington, D.C. He's been staked $100,000 to play. He gets to keep anything over $100,000, but right now he is $11,500 in the hole. And the last player at the table is the poker brat Phil Hellmuth. He's with Amanda Leatherman.
Phil, what are your impressions of the table now since you've played a little bit?
Well, I'll tell you, our online qualifier is playing pretty good, I think. He's letting Daniel run him over a little bit. So every time he limps in, Daniel's going to raise him. We can kind of take advantage of that. Daniel's kind of playing the rush. When he wins a few pots, he keeps playing hands. Tony G is pretty steady, pretty solid, and Doyle's just always solid, and but he's not picking up many hands.
All right, and what are you doing?
I'm basically just trying to play pretty patient, and I'll make a few bluffs when it's appropriate. But I'd like to just show them the best hand and win some chips and set them up to bluff me.
Well, you get out there and bluff them.
I'm gonna set them up to bluff me.
Go.
As Phil takes his seat, let's review the rules for the loose cannon. Each cannon staked $100,000, keeps all winnings above the initial $100,000. And at season's end, the loose cannon who's won the most money earns a North American Poker Tour passport worth $50,000.
Let's get this party started, eh, Chris?
I gotcha. It's hand 58 out of 150.
No.
Nice starting hand for Phil Laak, who just limps in. Tony G folds, so does Phil.
Ace-Queen is usually a raising hand, but this passive limping style has been working for Laak so far in this game.
E-Dub gets rid of his hand.
Yeah, the new day threw me into.
Jack Deuce, not enough for Daniel, and Doyle's getting a free look at the flop.
Yeah, woke up tighter.
5-6 ace.
Phil Laak's paired his ace. Doyle's flopped an open-ended straight draw.
Goes check, check. Jack of spades on the turn.
The past 2 nights, Phil has played his big hands pretty passively, letting his opponents do the work for him.
Doyle bets 1,500. Call by Laak.
Phil just calls, still slow playing that ace.
7 of spades on the river.
Doyle's caught up a bit. He's paired his 7, but it's not enough to catch up to Laak's aces.
A check by Doyle.
With Doyle's check, Laak's very confident in his hand. He's trying to figure out the right size value bet to get paid off by Doyle.
Bet of 2,200.
All right, I didn't want to win an ante.
Doyle doesn't bite.
And Laak wins the first hand of the night. Well, Phil Laak continues where he left off, while Doyle continues to leak a little more money.
Passive play keeps working out for Phil Laak. He's got to be careful. Eventually, someone's going to catch up with him.
And why don't we catch you up on the rules of the big game? Each table lasts exactly 150 hands. The action pre-flop is pot limit and becomes no limit after the flop. Blinds are 2 and 400 with a $100 ante, all of which is paid by the player on the button. And every player begins with at least $100K, but can rebuy for up to $500,000.
Doyle's already had to make 1 trip to the ATM. He's stuck over 100,000.
Action begins with Tony G. Ace-3 offsuit.
1,000.
Makes it 1,000. Phil folds. Ace, queen offsuit for our loose cannon.
The first two nights, Ernest has not played his big hands very aggressively. Let's see what he does here.
And he just calls. Daniel gets rid of his jack high. Doyle makes the call, as does Phil Laak.
Ernest has got to start playing more aggressively if he hopes to cross that $100,000 mark.
10-deuce-8 on the flop. Doyle checks.
Somehow none of these four players have caught a piece of this flop.
And checks all the way around.
Ernest checks the best hand again.
3 on the turn. Tony G gets a piece of it. Doyle checks. Phil Laak leads out to 2,200.
Feels this is a pretty safe board.
Tony G calls.
Tony now with the best hand.
Ernest folds.
Misses opportunity with another big ace. Doyle reaching for chips, only a 9 high. He might be trying to take this pot away right here.
What is it?
A raise to 10,200 by the Hall of Famer.
Doyle's hoping his image will be enough to take this one down.
Dr. Brunson and Dr. G in a hand with little old me.
I don't know what Phil Laak is thinking about. His nothing's even worse than Doyle's. Gets out of the way.
Now Tony G acting with third pair.
Tony G loves to play. He hates to fold, although he cannot completely ignore the fact that Doyle has raised in very few pots.
Is there a shot clock? Ah, the fold.
Put my reputation follow on one for me at least.
You thieved that?
10 deuce was out there.
I know. I thought about that.
Doyle finally gets off the schneid.
That's the biggest pot I won, by the way.
Yay.
The only pot I won.
Yay?
Yeah.
She just said yay.
President of Doyle's fan club, Amanda Leatherman.
I won 2 annies besides that.
I don't think Doyle's won anything since the $500 side bet from the first episode.
But that was an easy hand to play there.
Well, there's still 90 more hands for Doyle Brunson to turn things around. Phil Hellmuth gets us started with King 8 offsuit. Limps in.
I'm out.
Ernest Wiggins says he folds. Daniel Negreanu, 6-5 offsuit. Last night we saw him raise with 6 high, and here he raises again to 1,600. Doyle folds, Laak folds, as does Tony G.
We heard in a previous show that Daniel considers Phil Hellmuth to be one of the weaker players at the table, hence the re-raise.
Phil does call.
Bet in the dark one.
I want to see what comes.
It's a pretty loose call from Hellmuth.
7-10 king, a pair of hearts on the board, a check by Hellmuth with top pair. Daniel bets 2,200.
Daniel continues his lead from pre-flop action.
Raise 4.
A raise to 6,200 by
Let me
Hellmuth.
steal one from you now.
You can have it.
All right, thank you.
And I promise you, you did not steal this one.
You think?
Not a great spot for a check raise. Hard to get called by a worse hand, and if you get re-raised, you're in deep trouble.
No, actually, I don't. I was ready to gamble a little bit there.
With that win in the early going, Phil Hellmuth off to a nice start. He is up over 16 grand. If you want to appear on the big game and be a loose cannon, log on to PokerStars.net. There are free qualifying tournaments every day. We're back with more after this.
At the world's largest poker site, you can play a tournament against just one opponent or against thousands. You can play for free in thousands of tournaments every day. So whatever your level, at PokerStars.net, there's a tournament that's perfect for you.